And good morning. We are so blessed to be here at St. Mary's Catholic School. I want to say Catholic Church, but it is Catholic School here, promoting our school, securing our future. Kevin Miller in the morning, promoting our school, securing our future, thanks to CapEd Credit Union, Team Mazda Subaru, and so many other folks that have made this happen. We're joined by a young lady by the name of Ronnie. She joins us now. Ronnie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. We're so glad to have you here today.
You know, for people that have passed by your school for years here on State Street, can you give us a little history of this great educational academic institution?
Well, we were started, as our placard in the front says, in 1948. We are, at that time, we were much shorter. We seem tall now, but we were just the basement and the first floor. And as the population and the need for those extending grades increased, we added another floor, much like the first floor. So if you're ever on our first floor, you pretty much know the blueprint for the second floor. And that, I think that took about 6 or 7 years. I'm not quite that old. I am old. I've been here a long time, but
Sure.
wasn't there for the first days.
Sure. How was the school founded?
I've heard stories, again, not that old, but that we were at the edge of the city. We were way out yonder on the edge of the city.
Hold on. So that's 1948. So here we are in State Street. This was considered the edge of the city of Boise.
Yes, this was like, let's add on to where the cathedral, which was in the downtown. We were just west. We were far west.
Right. If you could, Ronnie, introduce yourself. What do you do here at the school? It seems like you've been here forever.
My name is Ronnie Pratt, and I am the technology coordinator here at the school. I found St. Mary's School 22 years ago when I was enrolling my kindergartner, and started going to church here and had my 3 children here. All 3 were catechized here. They made their first communion and confirmation, and my youngest is now a senior at Bishop Kelly, so I've done this for a long time.
Well, indeed, and when you think about the cost of private education, religious education, why did you make that investment?
I am from a very small community in northern Idaho, and so is my spouse, and we looked at a growing city like Boise and wanted to give our children something that was small and family-oriented and all around good for all of who they were, not just the academic side of them. So we chose Catholic education, and this was the parish that we felt drawn to, so we chose this school.
So when you take a look at the growth of the Treasure Valley, people that are looking for good schools, do you have to be a Catholic to go here?
Oh, no, you don't have to be a Catholic to go to a Catholic school. There's the underpinning of the Catholic tradition and the Catholic faith, and we do work through the sacraments that you would have in the elementary level. But I like to say that in elementary and even early junior high, you learn that God is with you and Jesus is your friend, and then you start getting deep into the precepts of the Catholic Church, but Christianity and Catholicity are, I think, the same.
So when we take a look at why people would come here, give us your best recruiting pitch.
We are a small school. We have one of every grade, K through 6, and this year we're actually adding a preschool as well. I'm sure you'll hear more about that from other people that will speak on behalf of our school. But we do a Spanish literacy program, so we're teaching children in 2 languages. We've started that several years ago, and now that's reaching up through our 4th grade. We'll go into 5th grade next year. We utilize technology to its finest. Even with our small school, we are able to use technology. That's my specialty area. But we are able to use technology for differentiated education. We have small class sizes. It's a real family. And again, you'll hear that, I think, that common speech or that common element through all of our speakers today. We'll have parents, we'll have other educators, we'll have administrators, and you'll get to hear from our kids.
So for people, again, that are driving by this, I mean, I'm trying to think of how many cars pass by daily, do you think?
Once I read a report that said about 36,000 cars a day on average pass by on State Street.
Pass by St. Mary's. So, by the way, I parked in one of your reserved spots, so I hope you don't tow me.
No, we will not. You've got a very lovely car out there. It stands out.
Thank you. The Team Mazda Drive for Excellence in Education Forester, so we appreciate that. Ronnie, anything else that you would like to say? Because, you know, we always focus in on education. It can be such a divisive issue, but when we hear the kids, the teachers, the people that that make a difference every day, can you talk about that? You know, when somebody comes in kindergarten and they leave in 8th grade and maybe they go to Bishop Kelly, maybe they go somewhere else. Can you, as a parent, as a teacher, what does that mean to you?
Well, what's interesting to me, having children here and now being an educator here, watching when our students leave here in 8th grade, whether they came from kindergarten and went all the way through, whether they came in 7th or 8th grade, whether they're a foreign student, because we also have foreign students who come in on a program, when they're back in town or when they're having a day off from their other activities, they come to visit. They come to see the school that made them who they were, and that's important. I think we have an important place in society, and we have definitely an important place in students' lives.
And finally, for people that don't understand the value of the education, you don't have to be a Catholic. You can be a Protestant. You can be a person of another faith. For me personally, I spent the first 6 years of my education in Catholic education, so I have the utmost respect for it. But for people that are, they're going to go, well, there they are at the Catholic school, thinking that it's exclusionary here, but that's not the case, right?
No, I believe that the fact that we are a Catholic school, we definitely can educate the whole child, all of who they are, not just that academic side, but definitely the spiritual side and the well-roundedness. And if you went through Catholic school yourself, there definitely, I think, school has changed in general, and Catholic school has changed as well. We originally had the ordained, or the nuns who taught in our Catholic schools, and now we're laity. So we get to live our faith, and the children get to see us live the faith that we have.
Indeed. Remember the nuns. Always remember the nuns.
Yes, they stood out. They had that uniform.
They did. Ronnie, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you very much for being here.
We appreciate it. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone number is 580-5436. You're free to go, Ronnie. You can drop the mic, and we'll continue on here. Some of the stories that we are covering this morning, the Idaho legislature has adjourned. And when you think about what they accomplished, we'll get to that. 95 days, tying it for the third longest in Idaho history session. And this is where we say, see, we told you so. And this is where you come in. And I understand it's Friday, but for those people that are, building houses, driving Uber, driving Lyft, or whatever you're doing, it may not be Friday. This might be your Monday. So for some, it's time to wrap up the week. For others, we're just getting started right here on the right side. And one of the things that we predicted, unfortunately, and maybe the trouble isn't them, it's us. You know what I'm saying. You remember the old saying, it's not us, it's them, right? It's not us, it's them. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, maybe it is us. I can remember the first time somebody said that to me working at work, and I'm going, well, these people this, these people that. And they go, no, it's not them, it's us. When it comes to holding these folks accountable, maybe we have learned a valuable lesson. I will tell you this, just like everybody else, I like it when I'm right. That swarmy, not arrogant person, but the person that's very confident saying to themselves, I want to be right. I want to be right. I wish I was wrong on this one. And we will do our very best. We're gonna do something a little different. By the way, if you missed our interview with A.J. Belukoff yesterday, you can get that at KIDOtalkradio.com. A wonderful interview, bipartisanship, talking about education, sharing his beliefs. A.J. Belukoff running for governor not once but twice. International businessman, entrepreneur, dedicated education advocate. Really enjoyed our conversation with him. But after talking to A.J. Belukoff, I'm thinking to myself, guys, we need to let these folks know that we're upset with them and to continue on the pressure. So right now, I am vowing, as I did for the legislative session, I'm not giving up on repealing the grocery tax. Every day, every morning, every time we're out, if it takes some type of movement, come next legislative session, that needs to be agenda item 1. Okay? Agenda item 1, repealing the grocery tax. Or I would like the governor, with respect, Representative Moyle, House Majority Leader Moyle, because he'll talk to us, and he makes copy as opposed to others. House Minority Leader Erpelding, who has been a friend of this show before he became famous. We will talk with them. We'll talk to our local legislators and say, why wasn't the repeal of the grocery tax at least brought up? You heard Representative Giddings on the show say, Kevin Miller, I pitched it. It got shut down in committee. Well, why is that? Please make the case for us. Please don't insult our intelligence and say, well, we just decided it was not a good thing. The teachers got raises, which is good. Hemp went down, which we'll talk about in the upcoming marijuana wars. In the upcoming, it's going to be Chuck Winder, Kevin Miller, Chuck Winder, state senator, and others saying, say no to drugs while we continue to be surrounded by pro-pot states. Also, Medicaid expansion. You heard the young lady yesterday. If not, I'm going to try and grab that sound, where she's mad because Medicaid expansion passed. Now they're going to sue the government. There's a lot of drama. And, of course, we've got what's going on with the administration. We'll get to that as well. We'll take your phone calls, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And a story that's not being covered a lot, you have Julian Assange, right? Julian Assange of WikiLeaks being arrested and now probably being extradited to the United States of America. Well, what did he do wrong? Well, he released a lot of information, but Julian Assange did a lot of good things, so we'll talk about that. Other things going on. By the way, I have been informed by the powers that be that this is the last day, at least for now, of your opportunity to win Kevin Miller's cash on KIDO Talk Radio. You know, you go to the website, you type in the words, everybody. The more words you get, the greater your chances are of winning $5,000, up to $5,000. Today's 6 a.m. cash code word from St. Mary's Catholic School, bingo. That's right. Anybody affiliated with Catholics knows the term bingo, B-I-N-G-O. That is the Kevin Miller cash code word of the day in the 6 a.m. hour. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:17. Why don't we do this? Let's reload, reset. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. First question of the day, really. Did you think that the Idaho legislature did a good job? That's easy. Also promoting our schools, securing our future from St. Mary's Catholic School in Boise. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And once again, broadcasting from St. Mary's School here in Boise. Kevin Miller promoting our schools, securing our future. Thank you very much. Ray Amaya running the mothership. Our friend Joel here. Everything's rolling, waking up, and thank you for joining us. Let's go to Liberty Linda, who joins us now. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, what's going on today is crazy. Whatever happened to the days when a young guy would walk by the young girls, and the young girls would look down blushing and giggling with shyness? Those were charming days. In those days, we knew the difference between a boy and a girl. And that shy sweetness we need to get back to, Kevin. Yeah, there is a beauty in the difference between a boy and a girl. And
Sure.
I thank you, Kevin. Yeah, and I thank you, Kevin, for being at St. Mary's Catholic School today. I'll never forget the day I drove by a Catholic church, and some teachers were walking the children out in a long line. And I felt just a sweet, good spirit coming from those children. I like the word family that the young woman you just interviewed at St. Mary's.
Well, she's pretty
I would rather
young.
see all of us all get together and be one. And we are all children of our Heavenly Father, no matter what church you go to. And I would love to see us all just get along and just look at the good in every person. And so anyway, that's what I feel deep in my heart this morning, a oneness and goodness. And
Well, you'd like to buy the world a Coke.
Yeah. I would. Thank you for being there at St. Mary's Catholic Church. And, you know, there are wonderful people in all churches. And I just feel that so strongly in my heart this morning. And I'm so thankful for the things that you bring out and the things that you do on your show. And this is one of them. And that young lady you just interviewed. Anyway, I like the sweetness, you know, getting back to like the 50s, the movies in the 50s, and the sweetness in our children.
Well, there
Anyway,
is. It's such a blessing to be around them, yes.
It is. You can feel their sweet spirit. And, you know, today what's going on in our world, it hurts us inside. Because whether you're a boy or a girl, you have a sweetness and there's a difference. And anyway, I like to see those things, and thank you so much for going into the Catholic school today. And that was a lovely interview you had with that lady this morning.
Well, thank you, Liberty Linda. You take care.
You as well, Kevin. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, promoting our school, securing our future, St. Mary's Catholic School here in Boise. Let's go back to the phones, and let's go to Tom in Eagle. Tom, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Hank. Hank, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Hank.
Good morning. Just to give you a little clue before I get to the main point, the city limits in 1949 in Boise were at 32nd Street, which is about a few blocks west of St. Mary's, and actually the population then was 34,000 people in Boise in 1949, 1950. To give you a little synopsis of that. Getting to the point of the thing, the only way that you're going to make headway on it is that you got to basically come down to the governor. You promised in your campaign that you repeal. Why the silence? Why are you? Because before, like I said before in earlier conversations with you, the governor is the key to this situation. There's not going to be any movement by leadership or Moyle or anybody on this, and they're going to be very reluctant to say anything in public to cost the governor on this. They need to basically flush Brad Little out in the open on the issue. That's the only way that you're going to make any kind of headway on it. This is trying to flush him out in the opening. In other words, put the challenge to him if you want tactics that might have a chance of succeeding on this.
Well, what would you say to the governor and his friends? Unlike previous administrations, the governor does listen to this program. He might be listening right now. What would you say to him directly about why the grocery tax wasn't repealed, why the grocery tax wasn't even talked about?
Well, the point to be raised to the governor is this: that you made a promise to the people of the state of Idaho. Are you going to honor your obligation? And you need, and if not at the very least, give an explanation of why you changed your stance. In other words, you promised, and you knew beforehand. I mean, I might point out that Brad Little knew beforehand about Butchie Baby's Hewlett Packard's
yeah.
The acquisitions of Hewlett Packard and all the other little things, and the Medicaid expansion, which Butchie Baby, but he still campaigned on the thing of repealing the sales tax on groceries. I know that he's trying to honor Butchie Baby's legacy, but he did make a promise to the people, and has he forgotten his promise? That would be what I would say on the radio. And
right.
as far as the legislature is concerned, I'm in some ways disappointed, but it's to be expected. I mean, I don't think you're going to have any real changes in the legislature until you have changes in the speakers in the speaker's chair in the legislature. I think that we need a more conservative speaker, and unless you go in that direction, I don't think things are going to change much in the legislature.
Fair enough, Hank. Thank you for the call.
Thank you. Bye.
KIDO Talk Radio time 6:27, promoting our school, securing our future from St. Mary's Catholic School here in Boise. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. Go to Gary in Boise. Gary, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. We got connected this time.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Hey, want to give a shout-out to the folks down there at St. Mary's, and I believe Carol Herring is one of the teachers there, isn't she?
Okay, well, we'll ask our friends here, yes.
And St. Mary's is going to be competing tomorrow at the Science Olympiad down here at Boise State University. They will be among nearly 400 to 500 students, all the way from Weiser to Pocatello. So we're looking forward to seeing the folks down there at St. Mary's. And you are invited, too. You want to drop by around 10 o'clock? We'll give you the Cook's Tour and let you watch the competition. These folks are going to be...
It sounds like you're a fan of St. Mary's.
I'm a fan of education in general, and St. Mary's is a definite part of education, so we're looking forward to seeing those. And you are invited. We have 23 events, all the way from astronomy to zoology, with everything in between. So hope to see you down there, too.
And, Gary, tell us a little bit about the ages of the kids that are competing.
Okay, the Olympiad is, we call it an Olympiad because we have 23 events, but now there's science events. And the ages are a junior high group and a senior high group, so we'll have St. St. Mary's in the junior high group, and they'll be competing against people from Boise and Eagle and Caldwell. And then the senior high group, we have Weiser coming, we have Twin Falls coming, Rigby also, in fact.
Wow.
And so grades 6 through 9 are junior high. We call that Division B. And then grades 9 through 12 are senior high. That's called Division C.
Must be very inspiring to watch the young adults and the kids be so motivated in science and astronomy and other subjects.
Oh, yeah. And what the whole program is kind of geared to give the excitement that we normally reserve for, football games and stuff like that. So we have a lot of excitement, a lot of teamwork. And, not everybody can be that, big, beefy guy on the football line. Not everybody can be that 6-foot-something center or the volleyball champion. And, hey, what does the captain of the football team call the school nerd 10 years after they graduate from high school?
Go ahead.
Boss.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Kevin. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. God bless. It'd be a good place to take Tea Party Bob for his weekly walk. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie. And coming up, we will hear from the principal here at St. Mary's Catholic School. By the way, I want to thank Cap-Ed Credit Union, Team Mazda Subaru. I want to thank the folks at St. Mary's for having us here since 1948. What a great educational institution, driving by each and every day on my way to work, on my way back from work. I know you've shared that experience, so to be able to give you that insight here today into the building, when you see the kids playing, find out really what's going on, we want to thank them so much for sharing their experiences with us. Coming up, we'll talk to Rachel Sutherland, get her thoughts on Julian Assange being arrested. And when you think of Julian Assange being arrested, what does that mean for safety, security? What does that mean really for us here in Idaho? We'll talk about that. And, of course, take your phone calls on the end of the Idaho legislative session. By the way, thank you, Ray. By the way, if you missed it, coming up, we'll have a wrap on that. And we are taking your calls all morning long at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, getting your reaction to the legislative session. I'm disappointed, but that's a consistent theme with me personally and professionally. Let's go to Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio, Capitol Hill. She's never disappointed or disappointing. Good morning, Rachel.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Boy, we're talking about the Idaho legislature, and some people may be disappointed, some people maybe not. I bet one person who's disappointed is Julian Assange right now.
Well, he may have had it coming because we're hearing some reporting that the Ecuadorian government just kind of got fed up with their tenant there at the embassy in London. Apparently he wasn't showering, he was refusing to pick up after his cat, and was putting his own bodily fluids on the walls. So I don't know if he went stir crazy after 7 years cooped up in there or what, but they ran out of hospitality and basically kicked him out of there, revoked his citizenship and the asylum. And as we've seen this video footage over and over again, kind of reminds me of that guy who was pulled off the United flight unwillingly. And he looked much older than his 47 years, for sure. As to whether or not he'll come to the United States to face this charge of computer hacking, I would put my money on yes. It looks like the British Prime Minister is certainly behind that. He has a hearing date next month to look at this issue. His lawyers, of course, are fighting extradition.
Well, and it's funny, I had a chance to try and read a little of this, and apparently I thought that he had a room, and it was a kitchen, and it was like an apartment, but from what I understand, he initially was like living on a mattress in a makeshift office.
Right. I do believe it was rather cramped quarters, but you have to remember he was given asylum there because he was facing a sexual assault charge in Sweden. That charge, as far as I know, has been dropped, but it may be resurrected. And he chose to go to this embassy to remain. I don't know if he understood that he may be there for 7 years, and certainly living in such cramped quarters, it could be, even if it did have a full kitchen or what have you, could make anyone stir crazy. I mean, he certainly didn't look quite right when he was removed. And the Assange situation is a lot of people buzzing about, journalism, because he's claiming that he's a journalist and that he has a right to free speech. But as a working reporter, I can tell you he has not followed standard operating procedures for journalism. I mean, he obtained information illegally. That's not standard procedure. He also didn't. He got tons of information on the U.S. government. As far as I know, he didn't go to the U.S. government and ask for a statement or a reply. That would be something you would do before you go to print. And he seems to have an agenda, obviously. He doesn't even hide that fact. So for him to try to paint himself as kind of an unbiased type of reporter just doesn't really seem to hold water.
Well, it is fascinating when you think about this. There was a young lady that did a documentary on him. I think it aired on HBO. And she was the same lady that did the Edward Snowden, Glenn Greenwald documentary. And apparently he would go out at night sometimes as a motorcycle courier or something like that, driving around. And maybe it was a thematic license, but apparently he drove around quite a bit.
Well, maybe then that would should have helped his crazy behavior. But I just think that, after enough time, the Ecuadorians just had enough. It's kind of like if the landlord gets fed up and kicks you out. And it could be that he'll face additional charges as well. This one count that he's charged with only carries a maximum 5-year prison term. So if it's just that, he could be a free man again by the time he's, say, 53 or so, and go back to his activities.
Unless he comes to the United States.
Well, even the charge in the United States only carries a 5-year prison term at this point. It's just a single count, basically, of computer hacking. The government alleging that he worked with former Army intelligence officer Chelsea Manning to break into government systems and get information about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, troop movements, information on Guantanamo Bay detainees, State Department cables.
All right. I'm sorry, Rachel, you cut out a minute. So could you repeat that, please?
Oh, sure. I'm not sure where I dropped out, but the government's case against Assange is not really about free speech. It's about this computer hacking. And, yeah, the U.S. Charge only carries a 5-year prison sentence. Essentially the government accusing him of working with former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to break into government computers to be able to get secret information about troop movements and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, State Department cables, and even information about Guantanamo Bay detainees. So it's not so much about the information as the government is making its case. They are saying that this is a computer hacking case. But I wouldn't be surprised if additional charges were brought against Assange in the future.
Rachel, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, Rachel Sutherland, we sure appreciate her. Quickly to R&R. R&R joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, R&R.
Good morning. Hey, I think this Julian just got emaciated from lack of Papa John's cheeseburger pizza. If there's any way to give him some food, he was looking pretty rough. And I was really happy to hear that you're there with the Catholic school. I was raised in public schools, but I always very much respected Portland had some really fine schools, and I know them to have a great education. And then lastly, I think overall, this is my opinion from what I've gathered, the legislature did a pretty good job of sidestepping some pretty hairy issues with the hemp and all that, and we still have time, in my opinion, to pass what you were calling, and I agree with you, the sin tax. Let the natural groceries go home with all the people that eat healthy food, and then if it's full of fructose and all kinds of other stuff, go ahead and tax it. That's all I got to say.
You want to expand the sin tax to food. Of course,
Yeah,
you could take a look at the sin tax, and you could charge more on alcohol. You could charge more on cigarettes, and you could really charge vaping. I know there was the vaping bill. I don't know if that got I'm sure if it had been signed, we would have heard more about that, where vaping would have been taxed like tobacco.
Right. Well, I'm thinking high fructose corn syrup and all that stuff is just, it's just hard to go into a grocery store and get real food. So, but if you're getting the whole foods and stuff like that, I think that all that should be, and produce, it should be tax free. And then,
wow,
people that have that's just my thought.
Well, it's good to hear from you again. Don't be a stranger.
Thanks. I'll stay in tune. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, R&R. We're joined now by the principal here at St. Mary's Catholic School in Boise, Tammy Emmerich. Tammy, thank you for joining us.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming out to St. Mary's this morning.
You know, this is such an opportunity to really expose people to your great school, to Catholic education. And some of us have a bias because that's how we were raised and that's our faith. But for people that aren't Catholic, for people that have driven by St. Mary's for years, can you take us inside?
Yes, our school, what makes us unique here at St. Mary's is we are a small school. I consider us a gem of a school in the heart of Boise. And I think about what we offer here at St. Mary's when I give school tours and when I have families come in. And sometimes it's cliche when you take a school tour and they say, oh, we have a great community. But we truly do. We have a small community where people lift each other up in times of need, in times of happiness. Every morning we sing happy birthday to all the kids. We recognize them for their accomplishments. And we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and we pray together and in that community. And we do that down in our gym. Our parents join us, and we get to start the day that way. Our parents they do volunteer hours, and they're here way above their required hours. And our small school, we support each other. It's a great community.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because when we have done this program for many, many years, we always seem to sometimes forget the parents. And regardless of the school your kid is going to, it's those volunteers that come in that are maybe doing the early morning shift, maybe they're helping with recess, maybe they're volunteering on the school field trip or fundraisers. We tend to think of education as just taking our kids to school, homework, but to really help the kid and to help the school, there's so much more to that, and that's where the parents come in, right?
Absolutely. We're all a team, and that's one thing that we are strong, we consider a very strong point here at our school. It's the teachers, the kids, and the parents, and we're all working together to do what's best for kids. And the parents can't be forgotten in that, because they are that foundational stronghold for their kids. They're the ones who teach them those values. And we take those values and we emphasize those here in the classroom. We support what the parents are doing in their homes. You
and the staff here must have such a rewarding experience. Yes, it's tough, but to be surrounded by not only children, but to be able to instill faith in them in our ever cynical secular world. What experience is that like for the staff and the people here that you can openly pray?
I have experience teaching in a public school and a charter school as well, and those were great experiences. But one of the most rewarding things is being able to pray openly. And of course, we taught character education in my other careers, I'll say, but what better way to support character education with your faith, because they go hand in hand. How do we treat each other? We can talk about that from, the very important, we have to be nice to each other, but then we get to bring in that faith aspect and how Jesus treated others and how we should model those things. And it just enhances and enriches our ability to connect with kids in that very spiritual way.
For people that aren't of the Catholic faith, there's a lot of misunderstandings. So as we will throughout the morning here take this opportunity, I have a very good friend of mine who realized the value of Catholic education. Both of his kids went to Bishop Kelly. They had a marvelous experience, and they were treated openly and wonderfully. If you could, Tammy, address that a little and how St. Mary's prepares the kids to go to high school.
So our kids are so accepting, and that's part of who we are. That's what we're called as Christians and Catholics, is to accept others and respect each other's differences. And I believe our Catholic school system, not just here at St. Mary's, but at Bishop Kelly as well, and our other Catholic schools here in the Treasure Valley, that's who we are. That's who we're called to be, is accepting. And there is not a difference. It's never, oh, you're Catholic, you're not. Kids don't even recognize that.
Right.
Because they shouldn't. And that's not something that we call out, or that's not our job. Our job is to make sure that we lift each and every child up each and every day. And what's great is I was assistant principal at Bishop Kelly before I came here, and really working on curriculum there. And now we've really been able to backward align that, so our kids are ready to matriculate to Bishop Kelly very seamlessly. And we have a really strong curriculum and partnership with Bishop Kelly, so we know what our kids need to go there and be successful.
You know, and finally, when you think about this, that's one thing. Like many churches, the Catholic Church has scholarship programs for people. Obviously, people pay, they understand tuition, getting that return on investment. But for others, whether it's here at St. Mary's or other Catholic schools, there are wonderful endowment and scholarship programs to help people to get that foothold into getting a great education.
We have financial assistance for families who want their children to have a Catholic education. And that's something that we value. We want to make sure if people want to be here, we don't want finances to be a stopgap. We want to make sure that we are able to help support that.
Well, Tammy, anything else you want to share with us?
I just want to invite people to come and see our great school. We're starting a preschool next year. We're very excited about that, and just providing a wonderful pre-K to 8th grade education here at St. Mary's.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Let's go to Ron Paul Jim now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Ron Paul Jim.
Morning, Kevin. I hate to challenge Rachel Sutherland, but I think this motorcycle riding business is rubbish. It's very well documented and publicized online that they've been trying to extract him ever since he's been in there. And not only that, but the Ecuador government had agreed to let him out as soon as the IMF gave him billions of dollars in debt relief. And that's all online.
Well, I will say this, that Rachel seemed very defensive about this, but Julian Assange, I didn't really agree with the Kelsey, whatever, Manning's releasing all that information, but the Snowden stuff really changed the world. And whether people agree with him or not, what happened in 2016 influenced the election. And I think here you have Julian Assange, who's a prisoner, doing more than the quote-unquote professional journalist. Your thoughts?
Oh, I think if it wasn't for WikiLeaks, we wouldn't know a great deal of what our government has been up to. And, war crimes to just all-out corruption and to our election. It's funny, I keep hearing all this about Russian lies, but I don't know if the Russian government had anything to do with any of that. It was all portrayed to be, but I haven't seen any proof of the government of Russia behind or colluding or anything, just separately from that. I think it was the Seth Rich who wound up dead. And there's a trail of bodies behind the Clintons. And I think there's more evidence of that than anything Russia did. And, it's funny how the Democrats were all in love with WikiLeaks when it was all about the other party. So, this is a political witch hunt. This is a political imprisonment. And his condition at the end there, he could have gone stir crazy. He was not coming out of there. There were teams ready to extract him. They were monitoring him 24/7. They were shining bright lights at the embassy. There were reports of this stuff live going on because there was watchdog groups trying to protect him, trying to, make basically a barrier of a human shield for him. So I don't think this motorcycle ride business had any merit at all. That's the first I've ever heard of it.
I'll tell you, take a look at, try and Google that documentary. And he was out riding around. I saw it. Now, again, it could have been dramatic license, but
it could
check
have been
that out.
Years old, too. Could have been something that they're, pulling out from way back or something like that. Because they do that, just like they pulled out the video of it being caged, during the Obama administration and blamed Trump. So you can't believe any of this.
Ron Paul, Jim, I got to run. Thank you, brother.
Yes.
All right, coming up next, your thoughts on the Idaho legislature, live from St. Mary's Catholic School in Boise. You're listening to Kevin Miller, Promote Our Schools, Secure Our Future on KIDO Talk Radio.